Good evening, everyone. It's now 6 p.m. and the July 10th City Council meeting will now come to order. This evening's invocation is presented by Vice Mayor Shirley.
Okay, sorry I was unprepared for this, but dear Heavenly Father, we just ask you to give us guidance and direction as we lead the city through this council meeting, and be with each of our council members and give them discernment and guiding us through making good decisions that are sound. And Lord, we just thank you for everything you've done in our lives and all that you do for our beautiful city. We ask that you watch over us through this process. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Gentry, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Frank Baker.
Present.
Councilmember Melinda Livingstone.
Here.
Councilmember Leslie Notero.
Here.
Councilmember Lloyd Roberts.
Present.
Councilmember Mike Sable.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jody Shirley.
Here.
Mayor Dave Gaddis.
Here.
City Manager Kyle Leifler.
Here.
And City Attorney Thomas Trask.
Here. Thank you, Patty. We'll just move right on into agenda item 1, which is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion. Motion is made by Frank Baker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Mike Sable. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. Now we're on to item number 2. This is where the citizens get to speak. If any citizen would like to address the council about a topic not already on tonight's agenda, please raise your hand and wait to be called on. We ask that you limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. If any council member would like to respond to citizens' comments, please hold your responses until we reach council comments. If the city manager or city attorney would like to address citizens' comments, please hold your responses until your designated report time. Would any citizen like to address the council about a topic that is not already on tonight's agenda? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tammy Lavenda, 97 Harper Drive. I'm here representing the Bel Air Beach Community Foundation. Just have a couple of updates. As you know, the Adopted Park program was approved at the last meeting. Please see the details on the foundation's website or on the city's website. The community brick walkway only needs 4 more brick orders for free shipping on the pallet. We are currently reviewing options on ways we can get the bricks shipped for free on lower quantities. The bridge cleanup through Keep Pinellas Beautiful is this Saturday at 9 a.m. We meet at the City Hall parking lot, and the foundation provides all necessary materials. We are looking for additional volunteers to help plant sea oats. They are delivered to City Hall in the next couple of weeks. Please contact us by email or phone to receive more details. We are only waiting for the permits, and the new kayak launch at 16th Street will be installed. The foundation is looking for volunteers for a variety of committees. Please contact us if you're interested. Please see our website, the Bel Air Beach Community Foundation.org, for more programs and details on our foundation. We appreciate resident input, and we are doing research for our next project, one that will have positive effects on the entire city, like the before mentioned Christmas on Gulf Boulevard. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lavenda. Would any other citizens like to speak? All right, citizen comments are now closed. Item 3, next we have a presentation from the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, beginning with the monthly law enforcement report. All right, do you have a copy of that, sir?
No, sir, I do not. I don't know who's supposed to be here tonight.
All right, let's, I'd like to make a note of that. It's, this is not the first time this has happened. Why don't we just move right on over then to the monthly code enforcement report? And thank you, Deputy Clapton, for being here tonight.
Yes, sir, thank you. Commissioners, Mayor, city officials, and residents, Steve Clapton for the record. As you see in front of you, the monthly report from code enforcement, you'll notice that our weed and grass and overgrowth has raised a little bit, but we are taking care of that, and our unpermitted work has dropped. I'm happy to see that it's down to 7.5% out of the circle there. Been doing a lot of follow-up, working with a lot of the residents on the overgrowth of weeds and obstructions on the roadways. I've been in constant contact with the city manager also, and getting guidance direction to help go along with that. We still have a few problems along Gulf Boulevard that we are working with due to the Duke Energy contract trying to get the underground utilities. Other than that, that's it for my report. I'll stand for any questions.
Council, do we have any questions for the deputy? No? Thank you very much. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you. Have a great evening.
Yeah, you too. While we are discussing the police report, I do have a question for the city manager. Do you know what the current procedure is for parking and fishing? This is where I'm going. What I've noticed is that suddenly the bridges and the shoreline, anywhere where there's not homes, has become free fishing. And I have yet to see anyone patrol and do anything about it. I've actually rolled down my window and said, hey, you might want to reconsider doing that because they do patrol around here, and you can look an hour later and they're not leaving.
Mr. Mayor, if I may address that, on the 4th, I was out. I did catch several people out on the bridges. They were parked and told they couldn't be there. They can't park there. One of them was up on Harrison. We had to move over to the marina. As far as fishing off the bridge, there's not really much we can do about that because it's considered open waters. But if somebody parks on the roadway, I give them the opportunity to move. If they don't, we're going to cite them and move them anyway. This one individual that was parked on Harrison went to the marina, didn't pay, ended up getting a $55 fine anyway. So, but I am monitoring any type of street parking like that for anybody who is not doing any type of work in the residential areas.
Okay, and just for clarification, I don't have a problem with fishing on the bridge. It's the parking at the entry or exit side of the
Yes, sir.
bridge. And it's happening constantly. I'm wondering if you see it in your neighborhood also.
We see it some on Harrison, but I know someone who got ticketed for doing just that. So they were parked at more in front of in one of the park areas, where they could park off and they could fish off the pier, and they were parked there and they got ticketed. So I know that the sheriff is doing their job when it comes to that. But along with that, I picked up a bunch of beer cans on Harrison because I'm sure they were standing there drinking beer and fishing. And so yes, it's an issue, but.
And also at Bayside Park too, I've been writing a lot of citations up there for the same thing, where they're just pulling in there, not paying, and they're going out and fishing along the coast here.
All right, and if we see that, is there a better number than the permanently on hold phone line that we can call?
What I can do is I will get Joe and David's cell phone numbers so we can call them directly because they do not mind having that happen. And they just out code on it when it does happen. Same thing, I've been giving out my cell phone number, so if there is an issue, I will go check on it. But I will address this with Sergeant Stiver to make sure that we get it up the line and make sure that this is taken care of.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments? No? All right, let's move right on to item number 4. Is Chief Davidson here tonight to present for the Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue District? No? All right, we will just move right on to item number 5. A presentation. Before I call Mr. Davis to the podium, it's important to know why he is receiving this award. Since 2000, and possibly earlier, Rudy has served Bel Air Beach in various capacities, including serving on the steering committee that made recommendations to the council to replace our aging city hall, He served on the Citizens Advisory Committee that worked closely with Pinellas County to agree on a design for the Bel Air Causeway Bridge. He served as president of the Bel Air Beach resident group that formed a pact and brought the council-manager form of government to referendum. He served as the first mayor of Bel Air Beach in the new council-manager form of government. During that term, the council elected to move forward with the construction of our community center. He served as a member of the Board of Adjustments. He served on not one, but 2 city manager search committees. He also served as vice chair of the Planning and Zoning Board. I could keep going, but I'm pretty sure that everyone here gets my point. Now, I'd like Rudy Davis to join me at the podium.
Mr. Davis, on behalf of the City of Bel Air Beach, I am honored and privileged to give you this distinguished service award. You have earned it, and we are very proud of all your accomplishments, and we're truly grateful for everything you've done for this city. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mayor Gaddis, council members, and city staff. I sincerely appreciate this recognition of my service to the city of Bel Air Beach. It has been my pleasure and privilege over the years to work with so many dedicated residents who share my love of this community and the desire to protect and maintain the unique character and lifestyle that we enjoy. While working on various committees, boards, and special projects over the years, some of the most satisfying accomplishments have been serving as the president of the Bel Air Beach Residents Group, whose hard work brought the council manager form of government to referendum and subsequent approval by the voters of our city. Serving as mayor during the transition into this more professional form of government that continues to serve us well today. And most recently, to help organize the campaign to defeat the mayor who would be king. I've always felt, like the 73 years of Bel Air Beach council members before me, that service to our city was fully compensated for by the opportunity to maintain and protect what we have within this small but amazing community. And I never wanted a salary for the work. To me, if I were here for the money, I was here for the wrong reason. As I leave behind public service to attend to other matters that require my full attention, I do want to alert our residents to what our city council already knows. There's a serious challenge to Bel Air Beach and all cities in Florida by the current Florida legislature in Tallahassee. They want to end home rule that was mandated by Florida voters at a 1968 referendum. Their objective is to take away a local municipality's ability to control what happens within its own borders and take that power to Tallahassee so they can serve the moneyed special interests who don't want you and me telling them what they can't do in our town. Our own local state senator, Nick DeSiglia, was the sponsor of the bill that would take away our grandfathered right to limit short-term rentals. And our local state representative, Kim Burfield, voted in support of that measure in the House. We need to press them to either change their views and support home rule or face removal from office by local voters who put them there. Mayor and council should take a very proactive stance to retain your authority in local matters, and our residents should support their measure to do so. for Tallahassee will soon take that right away from us. We should all actively support the local Voices United project sponsored by the Florida League of Cities. I ask council to make sure every resident is aware of the project and how it supports our right to self-determination. Mayor, council, the city staff, I thank you again for this recognition and wish you and all of the residents of Bel Air Beach the very best. Thank you.
All right, we are on to item number 6, which is quarterly board reports. Let's begin with the Board of Adjustments report from Mr. Mike Kelly. Mr. Kelly, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to tell you that the Board of Adjustment has been busy. The Board of Adjustment normally only sees 2 or 3 variances a year. We've had 2 this quarter, and we were supposed to have 1 this Thursday, but we postponed it. So we have an active board. We've had the same 3 kind of cases that have come before us regarding pools. Kyle's already got a plan to make that get reviewed, and I'm sure everything will work out just fine. But we've got, again, an active board. We're getting a lot of experience from the new members, and if there's any questions, I'll be glad to handle it this time.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Do we have any questions or comments? No? I think you guys are doing a great job, and I'm hoping we can get this pool.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, now we are on to the Citizens Advisory Committee report from Mr. Ron Saganic.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Citizens Advisory Committee met this past quarter under our other title as the Audit Committee, and we approved the final comprehensive annual financial report on May 3rd, and it was approved as the council approved it, and they had fixed some errors and filled all the reports that were missing. So I will be meeting later this week to review the budget, and that's what we've been up to this quarter.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments for Mr. Saganic? No? Thank you again. All right, next up is the Park and Recreation report from Ms. Tammy Levin.
Again, just a couple things from the Park and Rec Board. Once again, I'd like to thank all of our beach cleanup volunteers over the last quarter. We are looking at new items to put Bel Air Beach logos on. I like the tablecloths, by the way. So if anybody has any suggestions, please contact anyone on the Park and Rec Board, or please call the city. We are continuing our new welcome bag program for new residents, along with all the necessary information that they need as new residents. We also include some Bel Air Beach goodies and some local merchant info. If you, as a resident, own a local business and like to contribute something to the bag, please drop off at the City Hall in batches of 10. Please see city website or our e-sign for upcoming fall and spring events. Our 3rd annual Health and Wellness Fair is in January, and we would love to have more resident participation as vendors if you're in the health and wellness field. So, thank you. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions? Yes, Mr. Banker.
The last beach cleanup, there was a couple residents that raised the issue of raiding the beach more often, and I know you were traveling the last monthly meeting. I did bring it up. Kyle is going to look into it. Not much beach to raid anymore, but I think we're working on it.
Yeah, that's great. I know like there's a schedule that the city maintenance team has to rake the beach. Are you looking for the Park and Rec to maybe get volunteers to do that?
I'll volunteer, but I don't know about the limitations of somebody getting hurt or I'll drive the tractor.
No, I did contact the FDEP and got an auto permit, and they said that we can rake it more frequently. We just have to be cognizant of the turtle season, and sometimes, during the busy season, by the time the turtles are clear on the beach, get people out there, so you can't get involved, you get around them as best you can. But I'm not sure what our goal is on how frequently we my first inclination, no.
You don't want to be doing that, but have no insurance coverage for volunteers? That's what I thought.
To me, it seems like it would be difficult because we don't always know when the beach needs to be raked, just based on when there's like something, like a big blob of goop coming in out of the water. So like, you know, I know it's scheduled, but if, I don't know, we can have maybe something, not on call, but like, that we could do through the city without trying to get groups of volunteers, because we can't always do that on short notice anyway.
And we have to sign a waiver to even participate in beach cleanup. I can't imagine what it would be like to handle a piece of hardware. But Ms. Reaper, we used to do this regularly. I don't think it was on a regular schedule. I think it was more of an on-demand. Why did we stop?
The last 2 times we did it when the weeds were accumulating on the beach. Since I've been here, since 18, our permit's been filled out for triannually and after major storms. So typically what happens is a resident will report a high volume of seaweed, and at that point we'll schedule something.
Any other questions or comments from Mr. Levin? No? Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, and finally, we have the planning and zoning report from Mr. J.C. Enfield.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, 3221 Hibiscus Drive East is represented tonight. The zoning board has met several times since the first of the year. It's not a board that just sits and looks around. Sometimes we look around and wonder why we got certain things, but we got the comp plan. And just as a for instance, we spent 4 meetings on the comp plan and returned it to the council. A total of 5 hours. 2, 1, and 1. And this is times that the citizens to vote. And we presented that back to the city. And recently, we were presented an ordinance considering signs. And it's only this thick. And when you go through this, I'm wondering whether it belongs with the zoning board. Because most of it, I have 3 college degrees, but one of them is in law. And most of these presentations are legalese. And we're not attorneys. And I would like to ask the council to reconsider putting this towards the board for our consideration. Because when it was first reviewed by us, there were a ton of questions. Some I knew the answers to, but the neophytes on the board did not understand a lot of the verbiage. So I don't believe that belongs with our board. It was referred back to the attorneys, and we proceed from there. I'd like to thank Patty for helping us out quite a bit, and the city manager's always there, and Randy. And we're a silent board, but we do get our job done. And we know that the city, and all you people do a good job too. And the people behind me that show up, they do a good job. And I lost some members. They didn't die, but they might as well. Rudy ran away from me this year. And that left a big hole on the right side of me. We have been on boards together for the last 28 years. And then another person resigned. We got new ones. They are not familiar. But we keep trucking along to get our reports. But some of these things should be reviewed before they're dumped on us. Are there any questions that any of you lovely people have?
I would like to make a comment first. And I think that there was probably a little bit of miscommunication of what we were looking for from planning and zoning. We certainly, I hope I'm speaking for the entire council, we weren't looking for legal advice. Unfortunately, I'm afraid that that's what was interpreted whenever it made its way to planning and zoning. We received numbers that were highlighted, and it was our job to kind of look through it and make some recommendations, pitch it to planning and zoning, and see if you agree, you and the other members agree. I don't know how we went down this rabbit hole, but I don't think that's what we were looking for. I do appreciate your effort and your time, and I apologize on behalf of the council for the miscommunication. I think maybe the next time we pitch something to any one of these boards or committees, we need to make sure that it's clear and fully understood as what we expect. Would any council member like to make a comment on what I just said?
I sympathize with you with that sign ordinance. I was hoping council would throw it in the trash. I think we went from six items to 40 pages in that new sign ordinance. Justice Kagan, I don't want to misquote her, but she says this will come back to court one day. All right, because we got some alarms from residents, but I think the old law, the old city manager handled it marvelous, beautiful whenever there was a problem. This man right here, I think, has the same ability to handle it. I think we should trash it, but I sympathize with the whole board in even addressing it.
Thank you very much.
I'm not going to waste Mr. Trask's time to try to explain why, as things have changed over time, that we have become more protective of our liabilities. And I think that was the original reasoning for even altering our sign policy all the way around. Again, on behalf of the council, I apologize for...
Apologies not necessary. It's just a matter of communications. Everything's accepted. You have your job, we have ours, and I appreciate it.
I do have a question for you. Now that we know what the actual task is, does planning and zoning have enough energy to review a copy that has the numbers that we inserted showing distances, thicknesses, heights? Because it's not terrible, but I would still like a second opinion on it.
I understand.
I'm looking for a yes or a no.
I didn't quite understand the question. You don't know.
I would like to pitch it back to you again, but this time highlight every number where it's feet, inches, so that you have something tangible to look at instead of legalese speaking.
If it's shorter than 45 pages.
It will be 45 pages, but all you have to do is look for the yellow where it's highlighted yellow. It should be pretty straightforward.
And if we put little marks on the side saying something that needs translation, we'll mark it back to you.
I think we can handle that. We were just looking for another group of citizens.
Absolutely.
So that we can say that the council did not dictate shape, size, height, width, length, etc.
That's what I tried to say. Regardless of what we came up with, more than half, 95% of this was passed by the legislature in Tallahassee. So we couldn't do anything about it if we wanted to.
Correct. And so anything that could not...
Yes, Mayor, we'll serve. We'll take care of it.
Thank you so much. Mr. Enfeld, I appreciate your...
You call me JC. Everybody else does.
Any other questions or comments for JC? No? Thank you so much for your report.
Thanks.
Have a good night. All right, and Mr. Riefler, would you track down that copy that's got the highlighting on it and make sure that they get a copy of it?
Yes, what I gathered from the meeting was the amount of pages, the language, they felt that it was tough to understand. And they were worried that the average resident trying to follow the code wouldn't understand the code. So it was left for Mr. Mora to try to streamline it, make it easier to understand.
Okay, is he working on that now?
Yes.
Okay, so whenever that happens, it needs to come back to us first. Right?
Okay.
Thank you very much. All right, now we are on to number 7, the city attorney report. Tom Trask from Trask Daniel is filling in for Mr. Moore tonight. Mr. Trask, you have the floor.
Thank you. I did speak to Randy. He said that although he has been talking to you about the adoption of Senate Bill 170, he just wanted me to let you know that he will be working on ordinances, framing ordinances in direct response to that bill, which has now become law. That was the only update he wanted me to give you tonight.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Trask? All right, thank you very much. Now we are on to number 8, the city manager's report. Mr. Riefler, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start off with the undergrounding project. We actually started construction phase today for the conduit going in the ground on phase 1. And as a reminder, that's from 28th Avenue South, southern jurisdiction of the city up to Causeway Boulevard. And then moving on, the utility consultants of Florida are working on acquiring the easements and the final design for phase 2. The stormwater projects, we are currently got about half the streets surveyed. They're coming in as they come into Gemini Engineering. They're being designed, and Georgia Shimp and Associates is planning on, they're finishing up the survey, so in a matter of, I imagine, 2-3 weeks we'll have all the surveys in. Personal policy manual, continue to work on this, received the city attorney comments back from Mr. Eschenfeld. He provided a lot of good insight, added a lot to our personnel policy manual that was missing, bringing it up to a good legal status. And we did a little history looking into some of the ordinances that were referenced in the previous documents. And it's been, in the past with personnel policy, that the city has passed it by ordinance. So in order to make our revision legal, we need to pass an ordinance, which I have Mr. Moore drafting at this point. Hopefully in August we'll do our first reading. And what that'll do is it'll sort of supersede all the previous ordinances and allow us to, whenever we amend the policy manual, to amend it by resolution of the council, which is the way to do it. I would like to bring up that in our budget workshop, we discussed future savings for a city patrol boat for code enforcement from the water. Something's come up this past week where some of our waterway markers were already experiencing issues within Clearwater Harbor. Another use that will come in handy to us. I just wanted to bring that up to council. Good news, this week the ongoing code enforcement issue with a tree. I have scheduled to meet with an arborist. I got permission from the property owner to go on the private property, and we're going to do the most thorough analysis of that tree we can and make a decision from there. And then I'd like to come back up to the top project, which is our 2023-24 budget. We have our next budget workshop coming up on July 17th. After that, we will adopt the tentative millage rate. Tonight, in our last budget workshop, we said that tonight we would make a decision on the waste collection services, on whether we would like to renegotiate with Waste Management, as well as our current contract that expiring end of September, or if we're going to advertise an RFP for those services. Over the weekend, I provided you with some documents of some information that was gathered in the past week and a half or so. First document kind of laid out the price increases, the rate increases that we've experienced in our current contract. Also provided a document from Waste Management that summarized all the cost increases in the different areas of their waste management business. There was a document on the recent Florida municipal bid results across the state of Florida from 2019 to this current year, showing, the different contracts that went out to RFP and were awarded, who they were awarded to, what the percentage of increase was per municipality that went out to RFP. And the percentage of increase compares their services directly to their previous contracts. So, as you know, every city is different, the contracts are different, so the best way to compare is apples to apples. And lastly, I did a lot of research working with the county on our utility billing, how it's set up, how it's billed through the multifamily dumpsters versus multifamily cans and single-family residents. I tried to lay out where we're currently at, our bi-monthly billing that is in the utility bill with all the other county utilities, and how that covers our revenue from that, and how that covers our current contract, and then what we were looking at as far as a rate increase for a future contract at the proposed, or the estimated, I should say, increase of 25%. That's all I have. I just wanted to leave it at that decision marker.
All right. Council, do you have any questions for the city manager? Yes, Mr. Roberts.
So, excuse me, so Kyle, so with regards to the waste management contract situation, if the city wants to go out to and use a request for proposal, do you need a decision on that tonight? Is that what I'm hearing?
It would be preferable. The last time we did an RFP was advertised on June 22nd of the contract year expiring, and they received the bids on July 24th. So we're a little bit behind that schedule. I was told by Mr. Moore that our RFP schedule is aggressive per what he experiences in other cities, but I do think it's doable. We've done it in the past. So I propose that if we do RFP, we can advertise by July 26th and receive the bids on August 29th, leaving enough time to bring it to the September regular meeting.
Okay. Is that something we need to vote on?
I make a motion that we put an RFP out. You don't have to, all we're doing is looking for the bids. Supposed to be, we have to leave waste management, and it would be time.
Before we do that, I just have one question. What was your thoughts on the data that you sent? After you looked at all of the data, how did you feel about the price increase?
When I compared it to the other municipalities, cities, counties that went out to RFP, the data shows that the awarded contracts are coming back higher than the proposed estimated renegotiated rate with Waste Management. My biggest concern is that we go out to RFP and we decide that we want to circle back to Waste Management, but at that point we're actually paying more for the same services.
Fair enough. What I'd like to hear out of your mouth, what your recommendation is to do tonight.
My recommendation, based on the numbers, figures, speaking with other municipalities, and also speaking with municipalities who aren't satisfied with their service after they changed, would be the stick with Waste Management through looking at the history of the services to our residents. We've been with them for a long time, and I know there's a very positive relationship with our residents. I rarely hear any problem. If there is a problem, waste management responds immediately and addresses the problem. So in my time as manager and even in my previous position, I've been very satisfied with waste management.
Mr. Baker, after hearing his comments about this, are you still in the mood to make a motion for an RFP?
Well, I don't think an RFP is going to hurt us, like putting it out for a bid. So if council doesn't want to, council wants to stick with the higher rate. We didn't come back with any removal of those couple of holidays. Did they ever come back with it?
They did. It was going to make minimal difference to remove the holidays and look out for the 1 time per week. I just would like to make a point that in my meetings with Waste Management, if they renegotiate, they estimate 25% increase. What they're saying is if we go out to RFP, they're based on the numbers, they believe we're going to come back higher even with our lowest bidder. The last time we did an RFP, the lowest bidder was 13%. Waste Management was 13% more than the lowest bid. We ended up going with Waste Management after doing the reviews of the scoring process. Again, I would just, looking at all the information, I feel based on all the time we've had Waste Management and my experience with them and hearing the feedback from the residents, I don't believe that the numbers are going to come back. I know that Waste Management is saying that they're going to be higher when they come into bid than what they're going to renegotiate at. And like I said, I have dealt with other cities that have changed their services and they weren't happy with the, so the lowest bidder isn't always the answer. So that's why I recommend that.
All right, so it sounds like we are down to the wire on making a decision, but I don't believe we can vote on this because it wasn't on the agenda for tonight. Am I correct?
You can vote on this tonight,
Yeah,
even though it's not
we
part
can
of the
vote.
Yes.
Okay, so would anyone like to make a motion to move forward to approve this contract rate increase?
Well, that's going to come back to you. This is just, do you want to go out to RFP or not? The negotiated contract will come back for approval.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm saying is we have to approve, that's a whole month from now, or we have to do it in a special meeting.
So that contract will come back to you at your next regular meeting if it's been properly prepared.
Yes, they wanted us to commit to renegotiation to start the process. We needed to make the decision on whether we were going to go with an RFP or actually start a negotiation.
Okay. So if anyone would like to do a new RFP, I'll need a motion, otherwise we move forward.
On the question, we're locked into the rate they proposed was, right?
No.
We're not locked into that rate. He came out and said, this will be the rate for the next year.
So the projected rate is we're looking at a 25% increase. Now they're going to draw up a contract that's going to lay probably very similar to what we have now.
I think what Mr. Riesler is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that if this goes out in RFP, they have to get in on it also, and we may not necessarily get the same rate back.
That is precisely what they're telling me.
Council, comments?
Is this something that we would need or ask for comments from the citizens?
Well, we're not voting on anything, we're just asking
That's
questions.
comments. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So I appreciate very much the position that Kyle's in. Here's what I have difficulty with. First of all, when the current vendor made the comment that we're willing to negotiate a certain percentage increase, which we think is very good, that they're saying. However, if we go out and we ask for a request for proposal, they're sort of threatening, for lack of a better term, that when they give their proposal number, it's probably not going to be as good as the negotiated number. That sounds very odd to me, first of all. Secondly, when we're dealing with taxpayers' dollars and we don't know, we have no clue what the other competitors may be bidding through their proposal. And any time I've ever been involved with a government organization, I spoke with Kyle on this, every organization has some minimum amount of money that you're going to spend. It has to go to a request for bid or a request for proposal that exceeds that number, which is a good thing. Now, Kyle pointed out to me that actually there's verbiage in the current contract that we have with Waste Management that says we have the option of renegotiating with them without going out to another RFP. Again, I don't support that only because the unknown is, and what we may be hit with if we do it the other way, another company probably will come forward and say, hey, you know, if you'd gone out to proposal, I'm confident I would have beat that number. And then we're sitting in a very uncomfortable position with the way that we spend taxpayers' dollars. So that's what I'm uncomfortable with, without going that route. I can't imagine another company like Waste Management saying, well, we would negotiate with you with a number of X, but if you go out with a request for proposal, where our number is going to be X plus. That makes no sense to me.
Thank you for that comment. Other comments?
Well, the only other thing is, the number that Waste Management threw out to us is public information. And dealing with contractors all my life, anyone that's going to bid this job is going to look at that number and say, I can beat it, or I'm not going to put it in. I'm not saying Waste Management isn't going to come back and say, we're going to up the rate or whatever. You never know. I mean, trash is a dirty business. I mean, literally. But I have no problem with Waste Management. They do an excellent job. I just think they're a little bit high on the cost. I mean, they haven't. Last year, if you remember, they came back and said, well, fuel's up to $5 a gallon, and this is up, and labor's up. Their labor costs have bottomed out this past year. Fuel's down $4.50 a gallon from diesel fuel from 6, and what do we get? 25% increase. So that's the problems I'm having.
Well, I guess what we need to find out if we have a consensus on this at all. What I would just like to hear is from each council member what they think, which is one they prefer, to move forward with the proposed contract or to do an RFP and start over. Ms. Livingston.
I really appreciate Kyle's vision on this and where you're leading us to go, and I appreciate everything that you do, and I have no doubt that your decision or the way that what you recommended, you believe wholeheartedly that we should do. However, Frank and Lloyd have a very good, no business goes without getting a request for proposal. And I love Waste Management. I love what they've done for the citizens. They're great. They've been over backwards for us. But I think doing our due diligence for the citizens and seeing where we get our price point together.
Mr. Baker.
I want to come up here with her.
Vice Mayor Shirley.
I think we should go up from this.
Mr. Zabel.
Concur. Go out for the RFP.
Mr. Roberts.
RFP.
Ms. Matera.
I agree with Mr. Manager, we should go ahead with the Waste Management contract.
On this case, I am in the minority. I agree with Mr. Riefler also. But the council is pretty much said their feelings, and I think we need a motion to go to an RFP.
Motion for the RFP.
Second. Motion made by Frank Baker, seconded by Mike Zabel. Mr. Baker, you have the floor.
I think we should just see about competitive bidding. Hopefully it doesn't come that invite us. I mean, I don't think it will, but that's all I have to say.
All right, we made a motion on the fly. I'm going to have to make comments from the citizens now. Would any citizens like to make a comment on this topic? Yes, sir. Mr. Andrew.
John Hanson, 22nd Street. I was here for that workshop. I was one of the few, if sole person here when you discussed this contract, and I listened to the waste management guy. My question would be, are we at the end of the current contract? Typically, when we do these contracts, they're multi-year contracts, and within those contracts, it stipulates a maximum cost increase? Am I correct?
It stipulates a maximum cost increase of 4% based on the cost index. In the past 2 years, if you look at the layout of the CPI increases, they've asked for more due to the inflationary prices. That answer that.
Right, and just so that you also know, the original agreement that was prepared specifically was for a set term until September 30th, 2023. So the term is up. So we're not going to be able to bind over waste management on a specific dollar amount because the term of the contract has expired. But the contract also provides, as the city manager has mentioned, and I'll just read the language for you. The city may indicate the desire to renew the agreement for an additional term. The term is 60 months. Upon giving the contractor 30 days prior written notice of the intent to renew, renewals shall be by mutual agreement. In such event, this agreement may be renewed under the same terms and conditions, including the payment adjustments as set forth in Section 9. Section 9 shows the dollar amounts, and then all the subparagraphs saying these are the reasons why we can increase it, like the CPI, the gas, those types of things.
Okay, I wasn't completely clear on whether we were at the end of the current contract or not, so, okay. The other thing is, as I recall from the budget workshop on this topic, the consensus then was you were going to lean towards leaving that door open, but consider seriously RFPs. So I think you're going in the right direction. Take a chance, but I can't see what this gentleman was trying to justify 25%. That's way beyond what I think is reasonable. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Hansick. Would any other citizens like to comment on this topic? All right, back to the council. So this is a motion to do an RFP for waste services. I guess we can just do it all in favor. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed?
All right. So we have one opposed. I went the other way to be with the group, and the opposer was Leslie Matero. Anything else, Mr. Ripley?
That is all. I'll get on it.
Okay, I did have one more question for you, which was the boat. How much money are you proposing to spend for a boat?
Right now, I found a government contract for a patrol boat. It has a lot of options on it. It's for shallow water, and it's good until 2028, I believe it was. So it bought us some time on the purchase, but I budgeted $100,000. I know that's high. I know we can negotiate if we decide on the exact model that we want, and then go out to RFP, probably get it lower with less options. One thing I do not want to do is get a used boat. I think that we need something that's new and in good condition.
And $100,000 today is not much, though. Let me ask you this. If you got your boat, would it keep you from jumping in the water again?
That was only because I wasn't going in.
I can't say that 100%.
All right. Any other questions or comments from Mr. Wrigley? Yes, Mr. Roberts.
Yeah, Kyle, back to the stormwater improvement projects, which is wonderful that we're moving forward with all of the balance of the streets. My question to you is, I know we discussed once before, you had actually offered that the engineering firm at some point would come forward either via a workshop, which is probably more applicable, or a council meeting. What were you kind of visualizing how that was going to work? Were they going to be more on the front end or after they had completed the design? What do you think would work best?
I was envisioning, and what we kind of have laid out in our schedule is once they get to about 90% design, and then looked at all different options and coming and addressing the council, and that's still on the table.
Perfect. That's perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments to the city manager? Nope. All right. So now we are on to item number 9. This is the city clerk report. Ms. Gentry, you have the floor.
No report this month, Mayor.
A report. Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments for the city clerk? No? All right. Thank you, Ms. Gentry. All right. Now we are on to the consent agenda. Items 10 through 14. This is for approval of the April 17th, 2023 City Council Work Session Minutes, approval of the May 22nd, 2023 City Council Work Session Minutes, approval of the June 5th, 2023 City Council Meeting Minutes, approval of the June 19th, 2023 Budget Workshop Minutes, and approval of the June 21st, 2023 City Council Work Session Minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve as consent agenda as proposed.
Motion made by Frank Banker. Do I have a second? Second made by Leslie Natera. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Patty, thank you so much for catching up.
Thank you.
The consent agenda passes. All right, we are now on to the regular agenda. Item 15. This is for consideration of appointments to the Park and Recreation Board. One position is for a full 2-year term. The other is to fill a term that ends in September of 2023. We have 2 candidates tonight who have expressed interest in filling these positions. The first is Susan Conti, correct me if I pronounced that wrong, and the second is Michael Leeks. Is Ms. Conti here, and if so, would you like to introduce yourself to the council?
And yes, that's correct. Thank you for having me. My name is Susan Conti. My husband Angelo and I recently moved into the Bel Air area. We purchased a property and we'll be building a home, so we're very excited about that. And thank you for the welcome bag, because it was great. It was nice to receive that. We moved to Florida about 3.5 years ago. We're full-time residents. We have 5 adult children. We have 7 grandkids. I own my own business. I'm an executive coach. The business is called Designing Leaders. I work individually with leaders to help them with their executive presence. Prior to that, I spent 35 years as an executive in 9 different industries, so I've got a lot of experience. I'm excited to be here tonight, primarily to just get myself introduced to my neighbors, but also to offer up the opportunity to work and serve our community. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Conti. I'm gonna get you to hang out here for just a second, right? Let's see here. Would anyone on the council like to ask Ms. Conti a question? Yes, Ms. Natera.
On your application, you said I've been a resident of the city of Bel Air Beach for 1 month.
Yes. So we lived in Sand Key, and we sold our condo and recently bought a property. And we bought a property, and we're also leasing a property so we can be near where the build will take place. So it is recent.
Other questions? Okay, I have one, which I'm a little confused about. It says that you've been registered in Bel Air Beach since January 2020, but you've lived here for a month. Can you explain that?
No, it must be a mistake on my part. I'm not sure on the application that's part of that registration date.
Voter registration date.
Oh, I probably was thinking about just being in Florida. We moved in, I think it was November, December of 19. So that's probably what I was thinking was in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions. Anyone else on the council? All right. Thank you again, Ms. Conti. Very nice to meet you. All All right, is Mr. Leeks here? And if so, would you like to introduce yourself to the council?
Good evening. My name is Michael Leeks. I am a resident of Bel Air Beach since 2016. I'm a Tampa native. I have lived in Pinellas County my entire adult life, and I've lived on the beach since about the last 15 or 16 years. And then in 2016, I said I moved to a better beach. I am a electrical engineer by training. I am a general contractor and developer since 1992 in the state of Florida, as well as Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. I am, again, I've been a resident here since 2016, and I have always had civic, social, volunteer organization experience, and now I'm a retired executive of Duke Energy, and I have more capacity. I want to use that capacity to serve my home community.
Thank you, Mr. Leeks. I'm going to ask you to hang out for a couple of minutes also. Do we have any questions or comments for Mr. Leeks?
How long did you say you lived here?
Since Bel Air Beach, 2016, to Florida, my entire life.
Thank you.
And I did it a little personal. I have three adult children, 36, 31, and 27, and I have 4 grandchildren.
I have a question. Since this is a park and recreation spot, would you consider this to be a gateway to another position somewhere else in the future?
Yeah, I think on my application I put I can serve in any capacity.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Leeks? No?
So how long were you with Duke?
28 years.
Almost.
Anyone else? Going once? Twice? Thank you, Mr. Leeks. Very nice to meet you. All right, before I ask for a motion to appoint, would any citizen like to speak on this matter? No, citizen comments are now closed. Now I'm going to need a motion to appoint to continue. Motion to appoint.
Yeah, I have a quick question. How did the 2 positions differ? Patty, I guess we go to Patty. I mean, I understand that one is for a full term.
I can explain this.
Okay.
They're exactly the same. It's just that one is a full term and the other is to fill the gap from an exiting member.
Okay.
Right, so one is a very short term, and that person can reapply whenever that term is up. And the other is a full 3-year term. Mr. Terry, you have a comment?
Does that mean that in September, at the end of September, we're going to have another appointment?
Yes.
Okay.
I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to need a motion to make an appointment.
Motion.
Motion made by Frank Baker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Lloyd Roberts. All right, Mr. Baker, you have the floor.
I guess we just now vote to take the ballot.
Makes sense to me. All right, it's time to vote. You can vote for both, one, or none. But you must be specific about which term your candidate is being selected for. No 2 candidates can fill the same term. For both terms, each must have a minimum of 4 votes to be appointed. If needed, the council will make up to 3 attempts to fill both terms. If either of the terms are not filled, we will advertise and try again next month. I don't expect that to be the case. Does everyone have a ballot? All right, let's vote. right, Patty, are you ready?
Yes.
All right.
Councilmember Banker voted for Ms. Conti for the term ending September 23, and Mr. Leeks ending July 25. Councilmember Livingstone voted for Ms. Conti ending September 23, and Mr. Leeks July 25. Councilmember Notero, Ms. Conti, September 23, Mr. Leeks, July 25. Councilmember Roberts, Ms. Conti, September 23, Mr. Leeks, July 25. Councilmember Zabel, Ms. Conti, September 23, Mr. Leeks, July 25. Vice Mayor Shirley, Ms. Conti, September 23, Mr. Leeks, July 25. And Mayor Davis, Ms. Conti, September 23, and Mr. Leeks, July 25.
Thank you very much. So it's unanimous. Ms. Conti will take the September 2023 term, and Mr. Leeks will take the July 2025 term. Congratulations to both of you, and thank you for serving our community. All right, we are on to item 16. This is consideration of Resolution 2023-04. Mr. Trask, are you prepared to read the summary?
So this is Resolution 2023-04, a resolution of the City Council of Bel Air Beach, Florida, approving the fiscal year 2023-2024 non-ad valorem assessment roll for the Bellevue Estates Island Assessment Area, directing certification of the assessment rolls of Pinellas County Tax Collector, and providing for an effective date. That was the reading of your Resolution 2023-04 by title only.
Thank you very much, Mr. Trask. Mr. Riefler, I'm assuming that you put this on the agenda and had it generated. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Would you like to explain the need for this resolution?
So with the assessment, this is a requirement that we do every year. We recertify it, and we do it typically in July every year.
For what? What do we have, 15 more years?
That sounds correct. I would say 15, and basically what happens is associated with Prague, it goes through the 3 different loans, make sure that everyone who paid off is removed, and then checks the interest rates, and recertify it. We submit it to the property appraiser to get billed.
All right, thank you. Before we move forward, would any citizen like to comment on this proposed resolution? No citizen comments? All right, council, I'm going to need a motion to approve this resolution. Motion made by Leslie Notero. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jody Shirley. Ms. Notero, you have the floor. Thank you. Any other comments on this resolution? Nope. Pretty much just standard housekeeping every year. In that case, this is to approve Resolution 2023-04. Ms. Gentry, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Livingstone?
Yes.
Councilmember Notero?
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts?
Aye.
Councilmember Zabel?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley?
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis?
Aye. So it passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Riefler. Thank you, Ms. Gentry. All right, we are on to item number 17. This is for authorization for the city manager to execute a contract for law enforcement services for the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department for fiscal year 2023 through 24. City Manager Riefler.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the law enforcement contract. Typically, in the previous years, we had law enforcement on its own contract and the code enforcement on another contract. This year, when the new contract was drafted, it was made clear by the sheriff's office that it's unusual that we have two contracts, and asked if I would consider going to one contract. And they said the terms of the contract would be the same, essentially just combined, and leaving our code enforcement services as an as-needed basis, which it has been in the past. So the new proposed contract for the amount for the law enforcement services is the $592,716. That is an increase of 7.94% from last year's. And then the code enforcement is billed on a per hour basis, and it increased to $55.66 per hour, which is a 7.5% increase. A little history: the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office has done our law enforcement since 2007 when we disbanded the police department. And code enforcement services, we've used sheriff's deputy to assist since 2020. From the beginning of code enforcement being done by Pinellas County, we use them at a 20-hour per week rate. Last year, we decided during our budget meetings that we would drop it down to 15 hours per week and see how it went. It's going well, in my opinion, and I propose that this current budget year, starting October 1, we utilize 12 hours of code enforcement per week, supplementing with in-house staff. And this contract has been reviewed by the city attorney, and it's provided.
Thank you, Mr. Riegler. Before we move to the council, I need to go to citizens for comments. Would any citizen like to make a comment? Yes, Mr. Hanson.
John Hanson, 22nd Street. It's interesting. The annual increases year over year get higher and higher. This is close to 3% more than this current fiscal year, I believe. So I don't know what's going on. Inflation's down.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Any other citizen like to comment? All right, citizen comments are closed, and now we're back to the council. Before we continue, I'm going to need a motion for authorization for execution of this contract.
So moved.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Shirley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Lloyd Roberts. Vice Mayor Shirley, you have the floor.
Nothing more to add. We've got the contract in front of us, and I think we've all had an opportunity to review it with the vice and the attorney, and maybe take a look.
Other questions or comments? Mr. Baker?
Page 4 of this contract, could you refresh the council's memory and the citizens? Bel Air Shores shares our deputy. And how many hours a day do they share? Is it 1 hour per shift or 2? Or 1 hour or
I don't have those numbers in front of me. I know it's been reviewed at least in the past 2 years. I can find that out, but I forgot what was determined.
I was told it was like 1 hour per shift, but a couple residents have raised questions to me, and I've noticed in the last couple of weeks, and I'm excluding July 4th weekend, because Bel Air Shores actually paid for extra police service, deputy service. But just noticing on the beach and the parking lots that I frequent, just one day, 2 weeks ago, the deputy spent almost 3 hours from 6th Street to 12th Street, ticketing cars, taking a tent off of 6th Street, taking 2 umbrellas off of 12th Street, and taking 2 bicycles off at 6th Street. Now, we spent over $17,000 per hour, 365 days a week, $47 an hour. I believe Bel Air Shores is getting a warning here, because we no longer get the tax, we no longer get the fines for the parking at those 3 parking lots. So they get out, they have to write it up. One citizen did an inquiry on how much time was being spent. It was well over 3 hours a day. Is look at the house calls they do every day. They do that twice a day. There's no way they can do this in 2 hours. And I believe we should be getting, Bel Air Shore should be getting at least 3 hours a day back to us for the service, which would save you guys over $17,000 for this contract. So I think we should table this contract. I'm going to put it on the floor right now that we should make a motion to table this contract until we get a review of how much time Bel Air Shores is actually using our deputy on our time.
We have a motion to table on the floor right now. Would anyone like to second that motion? All right, the motion dies, so the conversation will continue. Would anyone else like to make a comment about this contract? Mr. Zabel?
Yeah, I understand that obviously the rate did go up in referring to code enforcement, but the dollar amount does not, because of lower hours on this, offset any potential increase here. What I'm going at, I mean, I understand the concerns about Bel Air Shores, but at this point, I believe the best method is actually you approve the contract, and now that we have the contract, then we go forward to approach Bel Air Shores with, reducing the potential hours in, because this contract is between us and the county, not us and Bel Air Shores. So I'm recommending that we go forward and, with this contract.
Thank you, Mr. Zabel. Other comments?
So a legal question, can we sign this contract and then go back and charge Bel Air Shores if we find out they're using that more than they're paying for?
This contract specifically provides that you're going to share the deputy. It doesn't say anything other than that. So once you sign this contract, this will be in complete and full force. As for any contributions made or set off by Bel Air Shore, that would be an agreement between this city and Bel Air Shore. It would have nothing to do with the sheriff.
And my question is, it's an open-ended contract when it comes to time that we're sharing this deputy.
It is open-ended to the extent that he uses the word share and doesn't have any specifics.
That's my problem, that we're getting, our citizens are getting ticketed, our citizens are telling them they need to remove this, and they have to remove that, and our deputy, we're paying our deputy to do that. So I can't vote on the contract until we get some specifics of this.
I'm not sure whether or not this has changed from last year, whether this was the same language as last year. I don't know.
From what I understand, it's the same language, the same assessment of the percentage of time.
I believe it is, and because other areas have similar contracts with the sheriff's department, I think that the goal is to be able to tend to demand anywhere that it's needed. And other than the sheriff not being here tonight, or the sheriff's department not being here tonight, which I'm very disappointed about, considering we're debating over their contract, I have no complaints with the service that we've received. I think that we could step up directives such as the on-street parking, things like that. And I would also be interested in knowing if part of that contract includes them being here, because this is, I believe, is the second or third time that we've had a meeting, a public meeting, and did not have any coverage. So I do have a problem with that, and it needs to be resolved. I don't think that it will, it definitely won't prevent me from voting for this contract. However, I want this addressed going forward. And I think no matter what, we should always have someone on site to make sure that the community and the council and the staff are all safe. Any other questions or comments? Let's take it to a vote. All right, this is for authorization of the city manager to execute a contract for law enforcement services with the Pinellas County Sheriff for fiscal year 2023-2024. Patty?
Councilmember Baker?
No.
Councilmember Livingstone?
Yes.
Councilmember Otero?
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts?
Aye.
Councilmember Zabel?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley.
Aye.
Mayor Guyes.
Aye, so it passes 6-1. Mr. Reaper, you are authorized to proceed.
Thank you, Mayor.
Item 18, unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? All right, we will move right on over to city council comments, which, by the way, this is item number 19. This month, the randomizer begins with council member Zabel.
Great. Two big items that are up in front of Florida people right now, especially us. One is beach renourishment, and the second one is high insurance rates. And I just wanted to draw your attention to the work of the City Council, specifically Councilman Bankert and his continuing fight to get lower insurance rates or even get questions about the insurance rates answered by our elected representatives in Tallahassee. And second of all is beach renourishment. The mayor has been very vocal and working with various local groups specifically on this topic. And maybe you can address it later on, but the next Big C meeting, I understand there's going to be some updates on that issue, and I believe we're hosting it here on the 26th.
Yes.
Okay, so that's, we usually supply free food, coffee, and it's really good to understand what's going on with the rest of the beach communities. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zabel. All right, now we are on to Councilmember Notaro.
I have no further comments.
All right, we'll move right on over to Councilmember Bankert.
Today I sat down with Representative Ken Fairfield, our state rep, about wind insurance and the changes they made last December. She was unaware of a couple things in the and I'm talking about in the statute now, which requires each individual, if they want to carry wind insurance, it now has to match the flood insurance. And she pointed out to me that she's looking into secondary homes compared to primary homes and maybe adjusting the rates there to make it more equal. But one of the things I addressed to her was about insurance fraud. And what the state has done now is they put themselves in a $750 billion liability when it comes to cost because they're escalating all these policies to be maxed now. So you have to max at $250, $75,000 for contents, then your flood has to max at that. And to rebuild some of these homes are well under $400,000. So the first thing people do is get an insurance adjuster to come out and they just rate everybody. Now, she says, well, that's insurance fraud, and then I gave her the statistics that there was over 125,000 roofing insurance fraud claims or found fraudulent claims just in 2020. I said, so they found 125,000, how many really got away with it? So she's going to readdress this and get back to me with a couple people in the state. And the other thing is I've been talking to Rick Scott's office. I thought I was getting somewhere with him, and at the end of last month he sent me a consent form to get into this deeper. And then last Monday, I got another consent form from one of his liaisons to fill out, and I actually blew a gasket. I had his chief of staff on the phone saying, no, it was a misunderstanding, we're going to get it. So I wrote to Rick Scott, and I mailed it right to down to his Naples address. And I did get a call today from FEMA. We're going to have a sit down hopefully within a week or two about the percentages deductions noted in 2.0 per flood elevation that everyone is supposed to be getting here. But if you look at your elevation certificate without if you look at your premiums without your elevation certificates, it's probably the same with your elevation certificates. And for each foot or each 6 inches, you're supposed to receive a discount. Plus, the city's supposed to get a 20% discount for the things we did to modify 2.0. And nobody from the NFIP, FEMA, can show us where that discount is. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. All right, Mr. Roberts, you're up.
Thank you. I just want to compliment both Mike and Frank. At our last workshop that we had, a topic came up that Mike had been working on for a while regarding the sandbag challenges that we have back over here on the 9th Street. And the cool part about it was, so Mike made his presentation as to why he thought the best idea, I don't know how many people saw this, was to move the sandbagging operation to the marina, which was an idea. And then Frank brought up reasons as to why that probably wasn't the most effective process for our city or our citizens. That's when it really happened, and this should happen, I think, each and every time we have discussions about what we think is best for our city. Because through a discussion by all 7 adults that are up here, a whole different approach came to be, which was really the best solution and fixed the problem. The problem was traffic flow coming in and out. But through that discussion, I don't know how many of you people have actually participated in that infamous, you're on a rocket ship and you crash on the moon and you have 15 items that you need to rank from 1 through 15 as the most important, and you do it individually. And then you get together in a group, and I've done it many, many times with departments that I've worked with, and each and every time, the group solution is superior to every single individual ranking in the 10 to 15 member group that's been put together. And that's what actually happened with this scenario about the sandbagging operation. Because Mike then heard different input and he put together a solution that removed the traffic flow problem, which there's a little space behind us over here that's going to allow the traffic, if everybody agrees to it, to come down 9th Street and then exit all in one motion and get back out onto Gulf Boulevard, which was really the problem. So it's just kind of cool. I just want to thank everybody on this council to work that through, and it came out really nice.
Thank you. Councilmember Livingstone.
I just wanted to thank Ms. Condi and Mr. Leaks for volunteering. We appreciate it.
Vice Mayor Shirley.
Nothing further from me.
You should. All right. Okay, this month I have little to report concerning beach nourishment. At the Big C, beach nourishment dominated the meeting. However, the county is still holding out in hopes that the Army Corps will have a change of heart. I get the feeling that the county is afraid that if they fully fund it once, they will be expected to fund it every time. In the meantime, the majority of the millions collected from the bed tax continues to be spent on advertising to bring more and more people to our beaches. Perhaps I'm missing something, but if there's no beach when they get here, then what happens? I would encourage everyone here to contact your county commissioners, not just one, not just the one that represents us, but every single one of them, and demand that the county create a plan and fully fund beach nourishment for Sand Key Island. As mentioned once before, Council, we have an upcoming budget workshop and tentative millage rate meeting on the 17th. And finally, I have heard rumblings that at least 4 members on this council are either ineligible or have decided not to run again. Apparently having to submit full financial disclosures is already having an impact, which I suspect was the whole purpose of enacting it. So the question is, do we really need 7 council members, or should we reduce to 5? Next, should we increase our terms to 4 years in alignment with the general and midterm elections? Aside from cost savings, overall turnout should increase dramatically. Finally, should we increase term limits to 3? Currently, we are limited to 6 years or 2 terms. I have seen firsthand that this limit prevents our city from gaining any traction in the county. Our needs and our opinions have little weight in Pinellas County due to the lack of time to build these relationships. My question to each of you is, are you willing to consider restructuring the city council and our election cycle? I ask this because it's very, very important to me that our city do its very best. And it looks like the path that we're going right now, we're not going to have either the amount or the quality of candidates we've had in the past. So I just want to take a informal survey right quick. Ms. Natera, would you be interested in having that conversation? Mr. Zabel?
Yes.
Ms. Livingstone? Mr. Roberts?
When you say the conversation about making the changes?
About the changes.
Yes.
Mr. Banker?
No.
Vice Mayor Shirley?
Yes.
All right. So I have a 4-2, and then I would make 5. So I will be reaching out to Patty to see if we can schedule a work session to discuss this. Whether we make changes or not, I believe it would be irresponsible of us not to have this conversation. As always, I'd like to thank everyone who came out tonight, as well as those who watched remotely. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Frank Baker. He's always first starting line, right? Who's doing a second for me? Leslie. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Good night, everyone.